since COVID, when people were driven inside and would get on these instruments where they don't have to be in front of people, and they're getting all this over stimulation
Yeah.
from information.
Right.
All the information it's not good information,
Right.
right? And they haven't learned how to develop filters to keep out the BS.
Right.
If you don't have enough money saved for your retirement, like me and millions of other people, you're not alone. Welcome to the Wise Retirement Podcast. We'll learn how to invest, save, and earn more toward a comfortable retirement. Hi, I'm Angela Kay.
And I'm Reginald Thornton, along for this ride as well. Did you know that 20% of Americans age 50 and above have no retirement savings at all? Even worse, 3 times that amount are concerned that they don't have enough saved for a comfortable retirement.
Reg and I will talk with experts in their field, explore catch-up strategies, share success stories that we hope are inspiring, and learn about family wealth-building techniques that actually work. We'll also break down those complex financial topics into clear, actionable steps that everyone can understand and use.
Welcome to the ride, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Retirement Podcast. I'm your host, Reginald Thornton, along with the lovely Angela Walker today. We're happy to have you join us again. Today, we're going to tackle something that's similar but different. We're going to talk about how to get out of debt a little faster. We're going to do it from a different angle.
That's right. So today, our guest has built what he calls a framework, the 5 agents of change. And it's really less about willpower and getting out of debt faster, and it's more about how does real change really happen. And if you're feeling stuck in debt like me and need a plan to get out of debt faster, this episode is for you.
Absolutely. Today's guest, Mr. Reginald Clark, is a financial well-being coach. He has over 30 years of experience in the insurance and finance industries. His personal mission is to educate, inform, and assist others with their financial growth. He is a native of Atlanta, Decatur to be exact, Decatur where it's greater, and a graduate of Georgia Tech. And by the way, I had to say this before, but I like your name. So that's
Oh, thank you, brother. Yours is pretty cool too.
So welcome to the show, brother. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the invite.
All right, Reginald. So you're here to tell us, you're giving us the exact formula that you've created. It's a system to get out of debt faster using what you call the 5 agents of change framework, right? So let's dive into what those are. Like start with what are the 5 agents of change, and then start with the first one, what it is, why it matters, and give like a practical example of how we can use that agent of change.
All right. Well, again, thank you. And when I say the 5 agents of change, if you see it written, the A is capitalized and the GENTS is smaller. And the reason the A is capitalized because every step in the 5 start with the letter A, right? And the first A is acknowledgement. Okay. You need to acknowledge that you need to make a change. Where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, is not suited to where you would like to be. Okay. So in order to make that change, you have to want to acknowledge that change needs to be made. So the example is, coming to this podcast, listening for, advice and direction of how to, engage in the process of change. Okay. The second one is accountability.
Oh, wait, before you start on the second,
Okay.
let's dive deep into, we really want to get a hold of what A is. A, acknowledgement. You mentioned that, all right, like for me, I have a large amount of debt and I need to figure out, do we figure out in this example, do we figure out how much debt we have? Like I have credit card debt. Do we need to write it all out and see how much interest each credit card debt has, how long it would take me to pay out? How deep should we go when you say acknowledgement?
Okay. Well, so on the acknowledgement piece, what you're asking comes in one of the following A's. Okay. So the acknowledgement piece is just being
Okay.
aware that where I am right now when it comes to my finances, it's
Mhm.
not suitable to where I would like to be.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Acknowledgement is just that simple.
Right.
I can't make it even more complex.
Right.
I'm living paycheck to paycheck, after my paycheck or after my retirement, it's hit the account, after I pay, my necessary bills, there's nothing left.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This needs to change. How
Okay.
do I begin to change? That's the acknowledgement part.
Right.
Okay.
Mm.
Right. And so, don't, and that, thank
Okay.
for the question, don't make that step overcomplicated. It's
Uh-huh.
just, it's just say, hey, my money's short,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, I can't take my baby out to dinner,
Right.
I got to make payment arrangements
Right.
and extensions on my bills,
Right.
I
Yeah.
got to go
Yeah.
to the forepay,
Right. Right.
with high interest in order to do something, just being aware of where you are,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Right.
So
Right.
not
Mhm.
that, let's not make, we're not going to make that first step,
Okay.
difficult because the grunt work comes a little later. Okay. So,
Mm.
and what I found in dealing with most people, the acknowledgement part, again, by the time they contact me or reach out to me, they've already had some type of epiphany
Mm.
that where they are, they need some change.
Right.
So the acknowledgement
Gotcha.
part is just the beginning of the process.
Right. Right.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
So the simple process for you is essentially, okay, I'm acknowledging that I'm in way more debt than I can manage right now. And so
Mm.
That's the very first step.
right, and so then your second step is taking accountability of where you are and figuring out, okay,
Account.
now I know what I'm dealing with. I've acknowledged it. Now I got to become accountable for how I got here and what I need to do moving forward.
Absolutely. The accountability is what I call the come to sweet black baby Jesus meeting.
Mm,
Okay. You got to
mm,
look in the mirror and just say, wherever I am at the source of creating it. Okay. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, where it was, through benevolent circumstances or tragic circumstances, the accountability part is what did I do,
right.
did not do,
Hmm.
Mhm.
could have done better, or currently doing that ain't working.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. You're right.
All right. I just again, these are the
Okay.
simple steps.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Now, be honest with you. In past experience, based on the interactions I've had with individuals of all walks of life, the accountability part is hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Most people, sad to say, and this is in my little, humble experience, right?
Mhm.
People are much more comfortable pointing at somebody else or something else as being the reason or the main reason of focus of where they are.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm not diminishing those outside factors. Okay. But till I leave this mortal plane, I will always hold myself. I will always believe that I have the most control, right, over my greatest power. And my greatest power lies inside of me. And that power dictates and guides my ability, my deeds and my actions, because my deeds and my actions will define my character. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So the accountability part for a lot of people, especially, and I'll be honest with you, I've seen this increase a measurable bit since COVID. When people were driven inside and would get on these instruments where they don't have to be in front of people, and they're getting all this over stimulation
Yeah.
from information.
Right.
All the information is not it's not good information,
Right.
right? And they
Mm.
haven't learned how to develop filters to keep out the BS.
Right. Right.
The bovine fecal matter that's not feeding them or freeing them.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
but it's taking up their time. It's taking up their
Mhm.
their 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 space. When you are
Their
measurement of
energy.
space, it's taking up
Mhm.
their mental energy. It's impacting how they think.
Mm.
And it allows them a cocoon to live in an altered reality in some cases, right?
Mm.
It's it's been a really interesting phenomenon to witness. It's been a little scary, right? Um, but true. I'll give you a tangible example. You know, when people will meet somebody online and they see all these pictures and whatnot, and then when they
Mhm.
meet them in person, totally different person.
Right.
height, weight,
Mhm.
color, complexion. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They
So,
call
so,
that, you
so
know what they call that though, right?
is that
They call that
catfishing?
Catfish. Yeah, yeah,
catfishing.
yeah.
But, but,
Yeah,
but,
we don't want a part of that.
but you know, now I'm a little black boy from the South. I like catfish. All right. But, but hold on. But no,
Yeah.
we were told you don't want to eat a catfish bigger than your hand
Right.
because when it's bigger than your hand, it's a mud cat, and the mud cat eat anything. You know what I mean?
Oh, dang.
So, so the point I'm making is, at what point did the person who was doing the catfishing, what created that false reality for them? Okay, and apparently they did it. They sent the pictures out. They look in the mirror, and I'm not saying it's better or worse, but people are much more comfortable with that. And I believe, and, with a bunch of other things, this technology has given um, a window, an opportunity for that to happen more often.
Agreed.
We're all of a certain age. We've had some trips around the sun.
Mhm.
We grew up in a time that, especially when it came to um, uh, physical, realistic encounters. We had to stand on our square.
Yes,
There was
indeed.
there was no opportunity to be anything other than,
Absolutely.
not lie about how much money I make
Right.
and what kind of house I live in, what kind of car I drive, but this physical being,
Right, right,
you
right,
know,
right, right. You had to account for
you
that.
know, yeah, you got to account for that, and that's the accountability part.
Yeah.
Okay, again, it's not complicated, but doing those first two, acknowledging one that I need change,
Okay.
and two, me being accountable to what I have done or not done or could have done differently, right? That has led me to this point where I need to change. Those are the two vital, the two vital steps, right?
All right.
So,
I'm
so
I'm
hopefully that
not
gave
gonna
some context. Mhm.
that definitely gave us some
Yeah.
context.
Okay,
I do have a question follow-up.
absolutely.
So, because I'm always trying to make things difficult, I don't know why. But
Mhm.
so when I think of accountability, I think about having someone that I can be accountable to. Is does this accountability refer to that also?
Absolutely. If you need someone else to be beholden to spur activity on on your part of being good to yourself, right? Or being accountable to yourself, then by all means,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
if you need daily written goals, cool. If you need
Mhm.
to have someone, schedule to talk to a coach or an advisor on a regular basis, then cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
This is more than
Okay.
one way to go
Okay.
through this process. But what is key is that the process must be engaged and put into place.
Cool. Cool. Got it.
Uh,
Mhm.
as you were talking earlier about the accountability, the question that I had in my head was, you have a level of acknowledgement, but the strange thing is about acknowledging a problem and then actually being able to tackle the problem is where there's a gray area between acknowledging and accountability. Do you find that when you're dealing with people, even after they've acknowledged it, that they can't say, okay, I know that this is the issue. This because this was the point that you were making earlier. I think I know that this is the issue, but if I can make Reginald the fall guy, or I can make Angela the person who is responsible for my downfall. Why do you think that's such a hard thing for people to grasp? Like, okay, I know what I need to do, but why is it
Mm.
everybody else's problem?
Great question. Two reasons. One, muscle memory. That's what they've been doing all their lives.
Mm,
Mm.
All right. And two, it's easy.
yeah, well, yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
easy. It is, again, I don't like speaking absolutes, but based on observation, life observations, it's easier
Mm.
for people to blame somebody else or something else for where they are. Okay. Um, a good friend of mine who used to, who did a lot of work in community science, who's an epidemiologist, right?
Mhm.
Uh, uh, a bit of a character, but put a lot of work in places like Boston and here in Atlanta, right? He once says that, and I'll say this specifically to our people, people of color, the beautiful melanated people that, really exist throughout this world, especially here in America, right? Is that we suffer from, we have an allergy that is caused by the residue of the plantation. Okay. And that allergy has led us to being allergic to accountability because somewhere in our DNA, through our ancestors, right? In order to exist, we had to find comfort wallowing in a bed of misery.
Mm,
Okay.
Mm.
mm.
All right. And that it has allowed us to, overcome,
A lot.
significant,
Yeah,
battles and issues, right?
yeah.
But that
Mhm.
allergy has also made many of us comfortable being what I term a professional victim.
Mm,
Okay. All right.
Wow. Mm.
Okay. And that professional victim, you'll see him on the news. I'll give you an example. Remember back when Oprah Winfrey was giving out the Kentucky Fried Chicken coupons, right? And they ran on, So when the Oprah Winfrey show was on, and maybe some of your listeners will remember this,
Mhm.
there was a special she had on her show, and I think it was when Kentucky Fried Chicken was coming out with the new baked chicken, right?
mhm.
And they were giving out coupons, and then and it was a mad rush on Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? And there was a lady on TV, saying, this is wrong. I can't feed my family. Y'all need to get this right. Where did it become Kentucky Fried Chicken's responsibility and Oprah's responsibility for you to feed your family? What were you doing before the Oprah
Mhm.
coupon came about?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Or, you'll see somebody on TV who's like, they didn't have to do my son like that. You know, he was getting his life together.
Mm,
But your son got shot kicking in somebody's door.
mm, mm, mm.
So,
Where's the where's the
uninvited.
where's the accountability for that? Yeah,
Where is his accountability? And
Mhm.
then, truth be told, from extension, where's your accountability for raising that type of human that would think it'd be okay to go kick in somebody's door the way he doesn't live
right.
and have been invited? Okay,
Mhm.
all right,
Mhm.
and I'm giving you very extreme. Some may think extreme, but very real
Yeah,
examples of that professional victimhood.
right.
Okay, you know, um, when you say, well, the system ain't gonna let me do or they ain't gonna let me do, how do you know?
Yeah, yeah,
You know? And I tell you what, if the system is against you, you just help them win because they had to lift a finger and to eliminate you,
right.
to
Yeah,
neutralize you, because you've already accepted defeat before you even tried. Okay.
Mm.
So these are my humble examples of what that allergy creates. I try to give a entry point of where I believe it comes from, right?
Mm.
right,
And in the part of that acknowledgement piece, you have to acknowledge that this is not, at the very least, it has not, this type of behavior, this type of thought process has not been working in my best interest.
right.
So at the very least, if I can identify that, does that not give room for, hey, I need to try something
Some
different?
growth. Yep, yep.
Let
It
me try
does.
something different.
Good one.
Now, can I search out somebody to get that?
Yep,
Can I read and study? We have a very powerful tool, all of us. This right here,
yep.
this cell phone, a very powerful tool. Like when I tell my clients, when I tell my clients, my children, my grandkids, anybody that wants to have a conversation with me, what you cannot tell me is that I don't know.
Mm.
Mm,
Okay.
Right. Right.
that drives me
Not not
insane.
not 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 in 2026. Okay.
No, the
You can
information is
you
definitely there.
you can speak into this device and you can get some type of answer. Now
Right.
we can debate the the the,
The
the
accuracy. Yep,
validity of the
yep,
answer,
yep. For sure.
right?
Right.
Right.
What you can't
Right.
take,
Accuracy.
what is virtually unacceptable,
I
right?
don't know. Yeah.
Not in all cases,
Right. Right.
what was virtually unacceptable is telling me I don't know.
Yep. No, that's
Okay.
fair.
Because again, if you tell me you don't know, that's telling me you ain't even tried.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
I, I
Fair
would
enough.
I would agree with that. Fair enough.
Okay. So
So we have what we have. We've got
Acknowledgement
acknowledgement,
and
one,
accountability.
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 The next one is agent number 3.
Yeah. So the third one is analysis. And the analysis part is where you start when it comes to your finances. And truth be told, this can be applied to any situation in your life. I'm just tying into finances.
Right.
This is where you sit down and you have to get into the weeds, right? Okay.
Mm.
The weeds is first. Let's start out. Let's do a simple financial statement, and not to make it complicated, but a financial statement should track all your incomes
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and all your outflows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Okay.
then once you finish that, you'll have your net cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Or your net worth, depending on how you frame it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And in doing that, you have to be accountable for tracking every cent that you can. Now, the old school way to do
Okay.
it is if you got one checking account or however, how many checking accounts you got,
Yeah.
go back to your accounts. To be told now, in today's world, many
Mhm.
of your bank statements will have a breakdown on
Yeah.
how your money's been spent.
Yeah, it sure
Fair
will.
enough.
A gra
Okay.
Yeah.
graph
Yeah.
Okay.
or something on it.
So
Yeah.
so at the
Yeah, it
very
does.
least, but see if you got multiple checking accounts, you need to do
Mm.
it for both,
Mhm.
right? And then combine them.
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to
Okay.
specify what the money's being spent on. Now, this is what I come in contact with because you can't create a plan of action if you have not considered all the inputs, right?
Mm.
That's going to create some open for fallibility later on,
Right,
right?
right.
Mhm.
So what I
That makes
mean,
sense.
if you're looking at checking account and it just says ATM cash withdrawal, right? And let's say you
Mm.
have some interest that you don't want anybody to know about.
Right,
Okay. Cool. You know, I don't care what you do.
right,
As long as they ain't hurting little kids and the old folk, no,
right,
and animals
right,
and pets,
right,
do you.
right.
But what you gotta do is
Is
Mhm.
account
to
for
count for it.
it.
Yeah.
So if you don't want,
Okay.
if you don't want to detail what you spent that money on, just call it miscellaneous. Okay.
Just
Okay.
but make sure you put it in there though.
Just
Okay.
put it in there.
Yeah.
Just put it in there. So now with that said, especially in today's world, and this is where me as a person of a certain age has been in this for a while, um, I am very cautious about how I engage with AI, because I think I might have shared with you before, AI is a very powerful tool, unlike, just
Yeah.
like a hammer. Okay. I can build a house with a hammer. I can also kill with that hammer.
Right,
Okay. So I
Mhm.
need to understand how that tool is used.
right,
So there are some apps out there now. Um, and I'm going to mention the name. Can I mention names? I don't have any endorsements. I'm not attaching them and I don't own them. So I'm not selling anything.
yeah,
These are
Mhm.
just tools, that can be
Right.
used. But one you probably
Absolutely.
see advertised a lot is Rocket Money.
Okay.
There are three that I like a little better. One is called Origin, like the beginning, ORIGIN Financial.
Okay.
It's a great app. And what you have to give your permissions to your checking accounts and to your
Oh.
to your credit card accounts. Okay.
Ooh.
And then that old school, going through each page of your bank statement,
yep, yep.
this
Mhm.
AI does it within a minute. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
Okay.
okay. Okay. But you have to give it permissions
Right,
to do it.
right.
Mhm.
Okay. Another one is Copilot Money.
I know about Copilot. Yeah.
It
Okay.
okay.
And a third would be Monarch, like a royal,
Yeah.
Mm.
Monarch.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and of course, Rocket Money. And there may be some more out there. These are the ones that I'm familiar with, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
use this AI as a tool for good to help you dig down and help you break out that analysis, right?
Right. Yeah.
So now,
Mhm.
yeah, and I love that. I call it they call it the aha moment. I love
Mhm.
that aha moment. They either go like, oh, or they come online and their heads down. Either one of those looks
Right.
that lets me know that they've had that epiphany,
Right.
right?
Right.
That
Mhm.
they've identified a problem,
Right.
okay, or at the very least, they may not know specifically what the problem is, but they recognize that a problem exists, and I need to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
So the third is analysis. Okay. And before I go further, just let me know if you had any other questions or more context. Because I haven't finished analysis, but I just want I don't want to, I can get to talking. So I just want to make sure
No,
that
I can
no, no.
we're,
Look,
we're having a conversation and this is not a soliloquy.
no, no. Look, it's all great information. I like the flow of it. And now what I'm
Hmm.
curious about is how many of your clients or the people that you've talked to, I work with, have gone through the first three and they realize when we get to number four, it's time to really dig in and make these adjustments, which is agent number four. So
Hmm.
how
No, thank you for that question, Reg. And the reality is, and I'm gonna keep it, as the young folks say, 100,
right.
a buck.
Mm.
Mm,
Okay. If in a year I approach, or now keep in mind through the nonprofit I work for, I don't reach out to people. People reach out to us
yeah,
and
of course,
sign up.
of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
We don't charge you. There's no fee.
right,
There's no contract.
right.
So it's about engagement, right?
Hmm.
No, and I can
Okay.
only be honest. In my experience, if I do 100 people a year, less than 10% complete the task.
Yeah. I mean,
Ooh.
I can
Yeah.
see that. That's why, when you're
Okay.
talking about something as hard as this, but these
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
truly life goals. Like these are adjustments that have
It's
to be
not
made.
Right.
it's not no, let me push back on that.
Right.
It's not a life goal, it's a life
It's in that.
necessity.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. You're right.
No, dude, no, thank you. So there's another thing, and this is a great point for me to share this with. I don't think I've shared this with Adam before, right? But as human beings, we have 4 ecosystems that we must control without a contradiction or doubt. And I'm going to give them to you, and I want your feedback. Uh, in 1, if you agree or disagree, and 2, if I've missed anything. Okay, there are 4 things that every human being needs to have control over, they are the master, they are the CEO of these systems. The first ecosystem is your metaphysical system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need to take care of your mind, your body, and your spiritual health.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these
True.
don't go in any order. You can put them, say them around. So that's your metaphysical health ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
There is your environmental
Mm-hmm.
health system.
Mm-hmm.
The water you drink, the food you eat, where you lay your head, the air you breathe.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The third is your resource management or your financial health system. How do you make your money? How do you
Mm-hmm.
spend your money? How do you protect it? And how do you grow it?
Yep. Okay.
Okay. And the
Okay.
fourth is the legal defense system. You need to understand the law, have a lawyer on deck, and own a gun. Okay. So just for basic human existence, we all have to be accountable for these 4 things. Okay. And if we can't be accountable for it, we have to partner with somebody that can manage that for us and report back to us about how we need to do it.
Well,
Okay.
I will agree with
So,
that part for sure, because a lot of the stuff with the point that you mentioned, I would definitely agree that you certainly need to have access to them all. But
mhm.
the only adjustment I would make in the thought process would be it's a likelihood that out of the 4, 1 out of 4 or 2 out of 4, you're going to have to access other people to help you become successful at it.
No pushback here, brother.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
what
I
I
love
said,
that.
now we're all responsible for it,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But being responsible for it is also dictating or understanding, oh, I need help with this because I got to take care of this.
Exactly.
And then that help I need to get from a professional or someone that is a subject matter expert in this area where I am weak.
Right.
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 But again, we got to be, again, the accountability
Yeah.
part, we got to be accountable for the need to take care of all 4 of those areas. Right. And so, you know, further going into the analysis, right? you know, once we get it on paper and see where we are, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, then there, a couple other steps. One, there are formulas out there. I tend to use the 50-30-20 formula. It's just because it's just easier to remember. You guys heard of the 50-30-20?
Yes.
I've heard of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for those who haven't, 50 for every dollar you make, 50% should go towards your needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 30 to go towards your wants, and 20 for savings and investments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All
50,
right.
30, 20.
Now, another way of looking at the analysis piece is, sometimes I have clients, ponder what kind of quality of life they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then once they identify that and we look at the numbers, the next question, based on the numbers, what kind of quality life can you afford?
Mm, mm. Champagne,
All right.
champagne face
Well,
on a beer budget. Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
yeah.
Now, I ain't telling you how you should live how you want to live,
Right,
right?
right,
But I will submit to you that you need to know what you can afford.
right. Yep,
Okay. Like, I need some shoes.
right,
Yeah.
I want red bottoms.
right, right,
Okay.
right.
I want to go hoop. I
Look,
need I need some basketball shoes, but I want them new Air Jordans,
look.
right?
I might be. Look, now I'm aging myself, but you want the Air Jordans, but you might end up down at Tom McCann and the Skips. You know what I mean?
Hey, hey, but what's
Or
the
Buster
ultimate? But
Brown.
what's the ultimate goal?
You-
It's the hoop.
That's all you
Okay.
do. You're just trying to hoop.
And I'll submit if you go out there hooping some Tom McCanns as well as some Jordans,
No, without question, without question.
you know, so so for a lot of people, yeah, that's a hard part for some people, right? where they want to live a certain way, or they're expecting, or anticipating they should do certain things, but the reality of their pocketbook tells them differently.
Yep.
I'll tell you another a big issue when it comes to personal and household finance, right? It's
Mhm.
when grown people have procreated other people
Mm,
who have themselves by age turned into grown people,
mm,
right? And they live in their home, eat their food, drink their water,
mm.
right? And
Yep.
contribute nothing to the household.
Right. Right.
Okay. And in some cases, these people that they procreated have gone out and
Right.
procreated
You know,
other
other
people
people.
and
Yeah.
brought them into the house
Yeah.
that now falls, for whatever reason, you start taking care
Yeah.
of,
Under your brother.
right?
Yeah.
And these same people that
That's
don't
true.
contribute, right, that don't contribute to the health of the financial situation, but doggone sure impacts the negative health of the family,
All right.
want to tell you
Mhm.
how grown they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is where stuff gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. I've been
Uh,
told you can't tell me how to raise my family. Okay. But what I can tell you, what we can tell is your credit score is horrible and your cash flow is negative.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
And these people that I had to get out of, because I kind of figured out what was going on. And this happened more than once. You kind of figure out when people are taking care of people,
mm,
right?
mhm.
And I'm not talking about minors.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about people that have disabilities,
Yeah.
right?
mhm.
I'm not talking about elders that you're taking care of,
You're talking about
right?
able-bodied, a grown adult.
Able-bodied
Adult
adults,
Mhm.
children,
okay?
adult children.
And sometimes some elders need to step up too
Yeah.
now,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. Yeah, again, if they can,
Mhm.
all right. Let me put that in. If they're able to do so, if they're driving income or generating some type of income, and
Yeah.
you all are cohabitating in a particular space that needs lights, that needs water.
Right.
Everybody got to eat.
Right.
People want to take a bath. People want to be warm when it's cold and cool when it's hot.
Right. Right. Right.
That
Right.
takes
Mhm.
money,
Right. Yeah. For sure.
right?
For sure.
You know, that is your service responsibility. And to get that service, it takes dollar bills, y'all.
Man,
It
thing.
does, it does. So
Okay.
the analysis piece, is that all, or is there more
Well, I
to
mean,
that?
and then and this is where I'm a numbers guy. We can get deeper into the numbers, right? So you look at that 50, 30, 20, then you got to go back and adjust how you're spending. So a lot of times, let me kind of step back a little bit, right? So it's become more and more a reality, if it has not been that way for a long time, how much impact your credit score has in your day-to-day life.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. Your credit score dictates or has an impact on your car insurance rates,
Mhm.
Mm,
right? Your loan rates,
mhm.
your medical insurance or life insurance rates, right? Okay. That has an impact.
And
It
your
has an
job.
impact. And in some places, especially if you're in the financial industry, your job.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. So you can't dismiss that. Now you can complain and say how unfair it is. Okay, cool. But what we all must agree, and I'm not a defeatist, and I'm pretty sure I don't come up that way, but I am a realist. Okay. And what I'm saying, I'm a realist in the sense that I know I exist in a wicked and rigged game
Mm.
that was not created by me,
Right. Or for you.
for
Yep.
me,
For
Mhm.
me.
let alone with the expectation for me to participate, let alone
And
win.
succeed. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, the fact that I'm in this game, whether it be by force or choice,
Mhm. Mhm.
whether it be by force or choice, it is my biggest responsibility to myself to learn as many of the rules to the game so I
Yeah.
can apply them to my benefit.
And let me ask you a
Okay.
question while while
Fact.
while we're going down that track. You mentioned credit, and one of the things I'm
Mhm.
often surprised by for people in our generation is that they don't understand how much their credit impacts every facet of their life. It wasn't like that when we were growing up, but as we've gotten older, and there are more and more hurdles ahead of you. It seems like
Mhm.
your credit is the thing that really dictates
Mhm.
every movement you make. Do you find that a lot of your clients struggle with the knowledge and having that knowledge? That is that like a surprise for
No, because that goes back to the lack of acknowledgement.
them? Mm,
Okay.
mm,
Because
Mhm.
we come from a generation that maybe early life credit was that's not the universal credit scores, the FICO scores weren't universally used until like the 80s.
Right. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure by that time we were either finishing high school or getting ready to go to
Being in
college.
college, yeah,
All right.
all that.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I don't know about y'all, but back then everybody I knew had a job in high school.
There's no doubt.
You know,
No doubt.
Oh, yeah,
because you want your
KFC
own
for
money.
me. Mhm.
You want to get that little hoop that you can drive around,
Love,
get to the game, go on a little date,
yeah, all that.
go to, go to Burger King and McDonald's and they were selling real meat
Yeah.
and get a happy, get a meal, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You want to have your own little money, right? That dynamic
Yeah.
has changed in today's world,
True.
you know? So, for our generation, I kind of get it. All right. And for older people, I kind of get it because it was not necessarily something that was
The thing.
prevalent
Yeah.
in formative years.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
But again, it's just, so the account of, the acknowledgement part or the awareness part plays a part, in making that change and valuing that, the current day power and presence of credit scores.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, again, and I like this because it goes back to something we already talked about. That's a part of being uh, acknowledging something's wrong and being accountable for what needs to change and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you just identified is one of those issues that need to be acknowledged and accounted for. The lack of understanding and focus on, what the credit is.
Okay.
We may not like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of reports and studies out there you can prove that process is maybe culturally biased, right?
Hmm.
And it's skewed towards certain realities and incomes and life, you know, experiences. I mean,
Yeah.
you can argue that, but again, we don't run this game.
Right,
You
but we
know,
gotta learn how to play it. So
yeah.
you're giving us a playbook
If you're
and the
going to play it, you
rules.
got to learn how to
Well,
play it.
that's what I'm trying to
We
do
gotta
to the
learn
best of
it.
my ability. And I don't have all the answers, but what I do believe, what I do share, gives you a good, solid foundation upon which to build. And so, in the analysis part, one thing I'll tell clients, look, we're gonna swipe the table clean, okay,
Mm,
and we're gonna build this from the ground up. Okay, I want you to have a
okay,
fundamental understanding of what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, because
okay.
without that fundamental understanding, without this, intentional analysis, when it comes to your finances, we are risking building a faulty structure.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Number
Um,
4, adjustments,
well, thank
right?
number 4, the adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
So after you've been accountable, after you make the acknowledgement, after you're accountable for your part in it, after you've done the analysis of what needs to be done, right? Now you get to number 4. Now let's make the adjustments. So making the
Okay.
adjustments with things like, okay, I need to, as you kind of hinting towards a little earlier, I often have my clients, I say, everybody know how to use Excel or Google Sheets, right? So I want you to create an Excel spreadsheet. Column A is name the account, whether it's a credit card or a loan, right? All right, name the account.
Mm-hmm.
And then at
Okay.
the bottom, you may want to put in utilities,
Yeah.
but definitely credit cards and loans, right? The next
Okay.
column is you put in what the balance is, right?
Mm,
Okay. The next column you put in what the interest rate is.
Mm-hmm.
So for this example, let me clarify something. Do it separately for like, you know, um, utilities and day-to-day expenses. This
Right.
is just for your debt.
Yep.
Okay.
okay.
So name, balance, interest rate,
Yeah, that's
and
important.
then the minimum payment.
Right.
Like, so if it's a car note, no, it's going to
Okay.
be X amount of dollars. If it's a credit card, you can set your own minimum payment. All right, and it's usually, I think the minimum payment mostly is like somewhere like 1 to 3% of the balance,
Yeah.
but they want you to keep the balance so they can keep charging
Keep
you interest when they
charging
make
you
money.
interest. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay, and
exactly.
then after you do that, we do what in the medical field they call triage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You try to find the lowest hanging fruit that you can take care of immediately,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Okay.
then once you eliminate that, you take those funds that you use next month that you use this month to take care of that, you apply it to something else.
So you're doubling up or tripling
Okay.
up as you go along the way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You may hear it called the snowball effect
Yep.
or the ice cream effect,
Mhm.
whatnot.
Okay.
They're different names. And then again, nothing I'm saying is unique unto me. These are just tried and true practice,
Yep.
mechanisms of doing this type of stuff. I look at it like this, and this is something I had to figure out and for me to identify, what my value proposition was to clients, right? Or is to clients, right? You know, my 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 value is that I'm the puzzle master.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Which I'm the person that can put all these pieces together, right?
Mm.
And make that picture solid. Where a lot of people have, I'm sure people hear this like, well, I already know this, I already done that, and this and that, and the other. And I'm still, well, if that's the case, you might have to consider that you haven't been able to put it together and make it make sense.
Right.
Okay. And that's when you may need to come,
Okay.
call in somebody that has that, next level of subject matter expertise.
Mhm.
It's not saying anything about you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, no, that's
Right.
part of the
Right.
acknowledgement of it
But
all. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
we go. See how everything ties
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And and I love this because what we're doing now, and I didn't say it earlier, is that I was exposed to this in college, and I was told it's called the Socratic teaching method, right? But after study, I realized that it was an African didactic teaching method, right?
Mhm.
And it's just simply knowledge is developed by the questions asked, the answers given, and the discussion thereafter.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's exactly what we're doing, and
Mhm.
that ability to think in that way has helped me put less emphasis on being right or wrong, but a
Mm.
greater emphasis on truth and fact.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
A lot of people spend a lot of time and a lot of focus or being told they were right.
Mm.
So what I do now when people put a lot of energy and vitriol in their argument and whatnot, whether I agree or not, I say, okay, you're right. Now what?
So now you got it. So what we doing now? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Now, and
What's
I'll give
next?
the great Sonia Sanchez credit for this. And then Dr. Greg Carr and Karen Hunter add on to it. Sonia Sanchez will always say, okay, so how does that free you?
Mm.
Okay. Being right. Yeah. And then was we add on late is how does that free you or feed you?
Right. Right.
And being right. Okay. I ain't telling you are. You
Right.
shouldn't,
Right. Right.
but if you're gonna spend that much of your energy into this subject matter, should you at least not know what the benefit and the outcome of it is?
Mm.
And to that point, what is the action based on the agents here? What is the action now that you have all this information? Well, where are we going
And
from here?
Mm.
here we go again, Rest. That's the fifth
Yes.
step. After you've done, after you have made the acknowledgement, you've accepted your accountability,
Yep.
you've done your analysis, you've
Mhm.
identified the
Yep.
adjustments.
Yep.
Now
Okay.
you put it into what?
Action.
Action.
Absolutely.
Action.
Absolutely.
Let it marinate, let it percolate,
Yep.
see how it come out. And you may have to go back over and start over again.
Right.
All right. Because it may, something may, the action plan you put in place may not be working out.
May not.
Or you may identify a better action plan. Or you may get a unknown um blessing or
Right.
or better job,
Right.
which changes your
Yep.
dynamics, right?
Yep.
So
Mm.
when that
Okay.
so when that fundamental piece changes, then your action plan should change. All right. So
Oh,
so
wow.
in
That's
essence, 45 minutes in, I think we've got the 5 agents of change, kind of
okay.
discussed. And I'm here to get any feedback and deeper thought or process, so again, I'm here to teach and share and to listen and learn.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Reg. So
Absolutely, Miss Angela.
out of the 5, the last one is action.
Hmm.
How many of your clients actually take the action? And more importantly, how often do we need to take action? So what it sounds like is like this is an ongoing iter, ongoing process of knowing where our finances are at any given moment. And it's not just a snapshot in time.
So to answer your question, I gave you, you asked me a different question. I told you out of 100, maybe 10
Yep. Mhm.
Mhm.
that would get through part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sad to say half of that will make it all the way through.
Wow.
No, typically, they miss meetings, ghost me, right? Make up every excuse and whatnot. And then, after, I'll be honest, and I got other things to do. I don't want to deal with anybody that don't want to deal with me.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay.
That's
Right. Right. Right.
Okay. Okay. I
yeah.
don't chase, especially in this position with a nonprofit. We're not charging.
Yeah.
There's no contract.
Right.
Your only expectation is to show up
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So
so
action
I would
becomes
say five
okay,
percent.
5%. Action then
Mhm.
becomes a lifestyle and not a
There you go.
snapshot in time
There you go.
for
Therein
us.
lies will be my response to that. Say how often this is once you started, this is it's just like brushing your teeth and going to the bathroom. This is something you should do to the rest of your life until you can't do it
Okay.
no more.
Mm,
And then you can't do it no more. Hopefully you're aware that you can't do it anymore, and you put people in place to do that for you.
mm,
Okay.
mm, mm,
All right. And then that comes to another part of the financial planning piece, your estate plan. Okay. What do you have in place when you can't do for yourself?
mm,
Who who
mm.
have you put in charge of taking care of you when you can't do for yourself?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And if it means something to you after you transition off this mortal plane, what happens with what you left behind, that's where you have a will
Yeah.
and a trust
Yeah.
The
to do
trust.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now the reality is when it comes to money, things get funny,
Ooh, real
So all
funny.
the people that I love Papa. And Papa told me, Papa told me, they're jumping in the
Right.
casket, doing the main ones, trying to say, well, Papa told me he was gonna give me this, right? What helps eliminate a lot of that is putting it on
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay,
Exactly.
but
Must
that
have.
estate plan is a whole nother monster, right? There are some and all my estate plan attorneys, they bristle when I say this. But if you marrying Joe and you've lived a straight up, middle class life and whatnot. You don't have a whole bunch of complexities and a whole bunch of kids and different families and whatnot. There are some platforms out there that work very well for you to do your own will and
100%.
Rocket Lawyer,
100%.
Trusting Will. I'm not
Mhm.
saying they answer everything, but just for basic foundational, simple,
Yeah.
estate planning,
Yeah.
at
Mhm.
the very least, take a look at doing that.
Doing
If
that.
you are a business owner or you have multiple properties or you have financial investments and interests all over the place and whatnot. You got a wife, a girlfriend, and a baby mama. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
you want to keep everything.
Hmm.
When stuff get complex and
Yeah.
whatnot, you need to go talk to somebody and talk about setting up irrevocable trust and blind trust and all that
Right.
type of stuff.
Right.
And what I see on the internet is, I'm not going to say these people have ill will or bad intent, right? But what I will say, the presentation or the lack of information that they put out there, right, is the source of disinformation, misinformation for our communities. In other words, they often focus on the bloom of the rose,
Mm,
right, and give you all these high level goals and expectations, and that may be true. But what they ain't talked about is what kind of dirt you need to plant in, and to get to that rose,
how you got to feed it along the way.
that got some thorns on it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Right? And the outcast told us sometimes roses smell like boo boo.
Man, come
You
on.
know,
Come on.
so
Uh-huh.
so just cause of the rose don't mean it's for you. You might be allergic to roses. Okay,
Right.
it's no, it's still a pretty rose,
Right. Right.
right? So, but see, it's this lack. It's this a lack of attention to detail that what I see gets a lot of people off track.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Again, the entry point that we're in a game, whether it be by force or choice, that we don't control or dictate. And we've seen multiple examples where when we plan the game, they move the goalposts.
Man, come on.
So yeah.
So let me ask this question:
Yep.
out of the five agents
Mm.
that you have, is there one? I don't want to ask you what's the most important, but what is your baby? What is the one if you had to tell somebody to do? You'd say focus on this.
So I'll say that the order I gave it is necessitates for all
Yep.
if you ask me personally, because I'm a numbers guy, it's the analysis part,
Okay.
you know. All right. But a lot of people are not comfortable with numbers,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So some of my clients, and it's really kind of being an Oedipus for me, like a focal point for me to maybe open up my private practice again is that I meet a lot of creatives that are doing very, very well,
Yep.
Mhm.
but they have no affinity for the infrastructure
Yep.
of the financial well-being,
100%.
right? And
100%.
and when I talk to them, it's endearing because they're like little children.
Mhm.
They was like, I never thought about that because that's not how their mind works.
Right.
Right.
They hardworking, committed,
Mhm.
focused, but this creative. The numbers are just too rigid for them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or it's just it may not be their comfort
Yeah.
level, whatever the reason is, right?
Yeah.
So it goes back to what you said earlier, Reg. Again, the whole, African didactic teaching method. You said earlier about when identified you need help of a professional
Yeah.
or somebody that has a subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
rich people need it,
Yeah. Yeah.
They do.
poor people need it,
Yeah.
They
working
do.
people need it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
business people need it,
Yeah.
creatives need it,
Yeah.
doctors and nurses need. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Truck drivers need it. You know, I got a good friend that came up out the mud. Spent a lot of time doing the wrong things, but through encouragement and through effort,
Mhm.
got his CDL and got hooked up with a great dispatcher, and he's making more
Okay.
money he ever made in the streets.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, he's like, "Man, I'm just so grateful
Yeah. Yeah.
because I can sleep at night."
You and
You know,
Oh,
that goes
wow.
back to what you were talking
think
about,
about that,
that
man.
metaphysical piece. Like there's a level of peace and peace. You know.
Mm. I ain't got to worry about nobody kicking down my door, pulling me over, robbing me. You know, you know, and let alone what I'm doing is impacting my community.
Right.
You're
How,
yeah.
you know,
You're
you
helping
know.
a lot of people.
So again, a lot of thank you for this conversation because I don't really get to have this much, in an outward way, but it brings up other areas of how this is very impactful.
Yep.
So I can't, if you put me in a corner, I would say the numbers
Yeah.
is important, but that's for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
But in general, I just think the first part is just making the acknowledgement that I got to do something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
My expectations are very, very simple when it comes to, human beings, period. Right? Be your best and highest self, right?
Mm.
Okay? Be your best and highest self, right? And as human beings, we have three options when we meet each other, right? We can embrace,
Right.
engage, and help each other.
Right.
We can meet each other and turn away and say, no, this ain't for me.
Right.
All right. Or we can engage in mutual annihilation. Now, I prefer the first two.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Because it's really, really easy.
Yeah.
We cannot walk this earth alone. We need others, especially when
Sure.
it comes to family
For sure.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so my
Yeah.
point of interest is like, hey, just
Just be decent.
be decent.
Yeah.
Don't lie. Don't steal.
Yeah.
You know, don't be a professional victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Be accountable. Stand up. Make amends. You know,
Mm.
you know, work it's real simple. I try every day to the best of my ability to make today better than tomorrow and tomorrow better than today.
Mm.
That's right.
Mm.
Now, do I
That's right.
always accomplish that? No,
But you
but
try.
that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, another thing, I don't value people or mindsets that to validate them, you have to diminish or denigrate or
Mm.
disregard somebody else or something else.
Yeah.
That's weak.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's not
yeah,
cool.
that's weak. But we see that a lot in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So
You know what I want to know actually as we wrap up. Do you have any final words of encouragement? Because if you think about your clients, the ones that did go through to the end and they're doing it day after day,
Mhm.
what have your clients experienced after going through all 5?
um,
What words of encouragement can you offer us?
so
Keep
based
us
on
on
those
track.
who have that 5% that have done this,
Mm.
and keep in mind, all they do is just engage, follow, challenge, uh, listen, learn, teach and share.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
By doing this, um, I wish I would have thought about that. I would have had somebody come and give it a testimonial, right? But it's a paradigm shifting life change. Okay. in the sense that the one client I'm thinking about, car was about to get repossessed. Housing was unstable, but she had a good job, right? But the
Okay.
money, it was like holes all over the place, right?
Right.
Okay. So we were able to buy now keep in mind, this is caveat, the fact that since she had viable employment, I got to go on a tangent. I get a lot of people coming or have come to me, well, I don't work, right? Or as one lady told me, I don't get a check. I live on blessings. Okay. I said, well, I'm
Ooh.
highly talented, but I don't know how to monetize blessings. So you need to find somebody that can help you with that, right? So in order to do these things, maybe oh my God, maybe I should start with, you got to have a job. You got to have some income. You got to have some assets. Okay. You got to have something to
Okay.
work with.
Let's
All
start
right.
there. We need some
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
income.
sorry, man. We're at the end and I should have started
Number
with
one.
this, so,
We need to
all
be
right.
able to say we got money coming from here, weekly,
Yeah.
bi-weekly, month, whatever.
Yeah. I don't care where it's coming
Right.
from as long as it's coming. Now what you also need to know is I'm a snitch. All right. So don't tell me nothing that that is untoward you should be doing. Because if them folks come asking me about you,
I'm
I'm doing
dabbing
my
you up.
best
Now.
to I'm doing the best to
That
hold them
mouth.
off and give you a call, say, hey, yo, they over there asking about you. Right. But what I ain't gonna do is take an L for you. All right. So let's just keep it real
Right,
now.
right, right.
But I'm laughing, but I say this because this is reality.
Right. Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
But you,
and my whole thing is that with those kind of people, I want you to just go away early, so we ain't got to have no problem. All right. But yeah, so you have to have
yeah,
an income
yeah,
to do these things, right? And you got to really want to change.
yeah, 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 yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
you, you cannot have found comfort wallowing in that bed of misery.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. And you have to accept the fact that at the very least, I can't continue doing the same things over and over, except expecting different results. That's the fundamental definition of insanity.
yeah,
All
And
right.
yeah.
yeah.
And so, this young lady is just closed on a house, like no, not a big house, but it's her
Right,
house,
for sure.
right?
Oh, hello.
Closed on her house. We got a deal through a community a community revitalization program where they gave her down payment
Yeah.
assistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then when the house was sold 3 months later, it appraised for like 75,000, right? And she took that and she had maybe like 5,000 in debt.
Mm-hmm.
Took out a little HELOC,
Mm-hmm.
which is another good credit entry,
Yep.
like paid off her debt
Mm-hmm.
and bought her a Toyota to get her babies to hither and fro.
Right, right,
She ain't go buy no Bentley or no
right,
Lamborghini
right,
or
right,
no
right.
Ferrari. She bought her a
Yeah.
Toyota Camry to carry her 3 little black babies back and forth to school and soccer practice and I saw her. Matter of fact, I'll probably see her in about a week or so because the organization, she's a school teacher,
Okay.
right? And I'm involved with one of the school systems here, right? And we had lost contact. We had put the plan in place. I thought she had
Okay.
ghosted me, right? And last year, I was at the school. She came up and she just grabbed me and started crying. And I'm thinking something happened to one of her babies, whatnot. She's like, I just want to thank you. She said, this is what she said. I finally listened to what you said, Mr. Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I
Good.
did.
Good.
I'm getting kind of emotional now because it was,
N-
she said, I finally listened.
Yeah, yeah.
And she said, now tell everybody about you. Well, I was like, don't tell everybody because
You're not trying to work that hard.
I tell you what, if you tell them, you need to tell them what kind of work they need to do to come to me.
Right,
You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Tell a
But
whole
Yeah.
but
book.
yeah,
Prep them
that's
up.
it. Yeah. So for the people that have gone through it, it's been a paradigm shifting life change.
Yeah.
Based on what I've seen, based on what I share, what I have not seen is somebody tell me that I was, and again about me and wrong or that it didn't help them.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
Could be, but I have not heard that.
yeah,
But to me, it just makes and maybe I'm just overstating. It's just real simple to me.
yeah,
The only person you need to be,
Mm-hmm.
be trying to impress is yourself.
yeah.
Okay, and what I've started doing now is encouraging parents to let their children be on the calls
Mm.
Love
because
that.
now you help their learning by exposure.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Very true.
And they're
generational information. and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
needed.
and there are some coaching sessions where the question the children ask make me think, you
Mm,
know, you know,
mm,
because a lot of again, the whole process is real simple, you know, and guess what a child's going to do? Go think in a real simple way, you
yeah,
know. As we get older, we overcomplicate things,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah,
I,
we tend to do
I
that.
agree.
No,
Well,
children like, is this a pineapple or an apple?
Right,
Okay,
right, right, right,
it's
right,
simple.
you know, so and that makes a difference. You know, they gonna taste different, they look different. You know, they're fruit,
right.
but
Well,
so
wow. Reginald, this brings us to the end of today's episode. Reginald, thank you so
Yes,
much. We
indeed,
really
brother. We
got some
certainly
good nuggets.
appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all, and I hope this helps your listening audience. And and at the very least, I hope I've been of service.
Absolutely. Join us join us next week for another episode of some real practical steps and tricks and tips like Reginald shared today.
Yes, indeed, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If it helped you, hit subscribe on YouTube. Show how much you enjoyed the show by letting other people know about it. Share, comment, and hopefully other people will get this information as well.
And check out our full show highlights with action steps from today's episode on our Substack newsletter. It's free to join. Check the link in the comments below.
Absolutely. So we'll see you next week. I'm Reg.
And I'm Angela Kay, reminding you we're on this journey together. Until next time, take care.
Welcome to the ride.